Hi, everybody who's beginning to join us. Welcome back. I say welcome back, even though nobody was here before. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I will be honest, I was kind of happy to realize that there were technical difficulties. I can't see who's here. But I can see numbers of people. And so when I started at 11, I was watching numbers and it said 0. And we're going to talk about a little bit later in the webinar. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the shoulds and the self-talk that we have during situations and moments. And this morning was a really good example of that for me as I'm starting the presentation and realizing, oh, there's no viewers. So I had about a 10-minute dry run. It's nice to sort of be starting again and knowing that I'm having people watch and see. I'm going to kind of just take a bit of time to get right into the meat of things, so to speak, because I think an email just went out telling people that it's back up and running. So I think people will be joining a little bit in the next few minutes. So I will just sort of start by talking a little bit about how these workshops came to be. Autism Ontario, I'm really thankful that they're hosting this and a number of different workshops for autistic folks, for parents. I think it's, during this time, we need to find ways to stay connected. And this is a fantastic way to do that. So I'm grateful that I've been able to be a part of this. I am doing and have started to do not 4-part, but 4 different webinars on this topic of wellness and self-care. Something that, is really, I'm sure is important for all people, but is really important to me to make sure that my own wellness and self-care is being optimized during this time. I also have some children, so to make sure that my own kids' wellness and self-care is optimized during this time. And also, as a social worker, I'm supporting, and my goal is to continue to support people all the time, but specifically during this sort of different time around making sure people's wellness is primary in all this. So I appreciate Autism Ontario inviting me to present. So this week's obviously is geared towards autistic adults specifically. I mean, much of what I'm going to talk about is, as in most things, is relevant to all people. I'm going to sort of give examples and ideas and resources that have come from autistic adults themselves and from things I've talked to with clients about that have been helpful during this time. So a little bit about, actually maybe what I'll do is I'm going to go through the agenda next. And then I'll talk a little bit about me and who I am and why I'm doing these workshops, and then we'll get to it. So there we go. So the agenda for the next hour-ish is I'm going to start with a bit of a check-in, which is when I did the first check-in, I was the only one here. So nice to see there's some numbers. So doing a bit of a check-in around just how people are feeling, how people are doing right now. I know feeling questions are sometimes tough, but what some of the thoughts that people are having or feelings or what people are doing to occupy themselves. We'll talk about structure and routine. Again, although I'm doing this presentation for autistic people, structure and routine is important for everybody. And I can speak to that myself. I've had to really intentionally make sure that I have structure and routine in my day these days. To make sure I have sort of intention set, to make sure I have a clear start and a clear end to my day. And so we'll talk about how to implement some of those things. We're going to talk specifically about morning and evening routines. I think how we begin our day and end our day can provide containment to the day, can help your days not feel
like they're sort of bleeding into one another. That's a lot of the feedback that I've had from the people I'm working with and from my own self, but the autistic folks I'm working with, where time and the construct of time can often feel very abstract at the best of times. Now that's even more so. So these morning and evening routines can be really helpful. Some simple do's and don'ts that aren't so simple. For example, I have a water bottle next to me right now, and I've tried to make drinking water more regularly, intentionally, sort of a goal of mine. And that's a simple do, but it's been kind of tough for me to do that. So talking about some simple do's and don'ts and things just to think about. Again, the next thing is around shifting expectations of ourselves. I know I've had to really mindfully and consciously recognize how my expectations may have had to change a little bit during this time. I'm finding myself a little bit more tired than usual, and so of having some compassion for that, compassion for not being able to do as much as I think I should be able to, those sorts of things. Then we'll talk a little bit about mindfulness. So mindfulness and meditation, people often use those words interchangeably, and they're not the same thing. So meditation really is a formal time of quiet, of being aware of one's thoughts in a very sort of intentional, set aside time, which for many people can be really helpful. For some people, especially some of my clients on the spectrum, find meditation to be challenging and not that helpful. So when I'm talking about mindfulness, but some people do find it helpful. When I'm talking about mindfulness, I'm not talking about sort of sitting down on a cushion on the floor. I'm talking about sort of moments of being, doing things intentionally with purpose, and non-judgmentally. So mindfulness can even be things like playing a video game more mindfully, reading a book more mindfully, those sorts of things. We're going to talk about moments of joy and goodness that happen too, of course. And at the end, I'm going to do a bit of a guided visualization, which is going to it's a way of, it's not a meditation, but it's a way of using the power of visualization to sort of to relax. So this one's going to be about, I believe the one I have printed out here is about sort of walking towards or walking by a lake, and being able to visualize that. And that can be quite relaxing when people are feeling overwhelmed. And so I will be doing that at the end. I want to just show you, I think, bear with me here, as I reacquaint myself with this platform. So there's a little question and answer box, and I think by me pressing that, you can see that. So I'm going to try to make this a little bit interactive. So when you type answers, I believe that I am the only one who can see those, and somebody supporting me in the back end, technically, but the rest of the people, it's not public, so the rest of the people cannot see who's on here, what people are saying. So you can feel free to type and know that it's not going to be public. I may sort of try to make this interactive and say what people are saying, but I will not be using names. So just so people are aware of that, I won't be using names. A little bit about me quickly. So obviously my name is Stephanie. My last name is Moeser. I'm a social worker here in Peterborough, Ontario. Been here for about 7 years, and but I'm originally from Toronto. So here in Peterborough, I do a few different things. I am a social worker in private practice, which means I run my own business, and I provide counseling really around wellness and managing sort of anxiety, mood pieces, navigating relationships, those sorts of things, mostly to people on the spectrum. So mostly teens and adults. I work with people who go to the university and college here to manage some of sort of expectations people place on themselves around school, to help with executive functioning sorts of things. And I also teach part-time at Fleming College here in Peterborough. And I will be, which I'm very fortunate that I will be teaching this summer, but it will be, as not surprisingly, it will be online. So this continues to be good practice. I like teaching, I like presenting, but I also like it to be interactive. And I'm going to try to make this interactive, but it is obviously different than doing it in person. But let's get started around a check-in. I'm wondering if people are comfortable typing answers. The check-in that I want to ask is in a word or two how people feel that they are coping right now. So it could be I'm coping good, not so good, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling okay. So right in that box that I binged a little while ago, I will do it again. Would love it if people are feeling open to it, to type some answers about how you're feeling right now. So somebody says, so thanks for people who are answering. So somebody said, anxious, it's been a tough couple of weeks. Somebody else is saying that they're feeling a little bit confused. I feeling anxious, overwhelmed. Some days are better than others. Good, but sometimes restless. Anxious, but relatively calm. So I appreciate somebody saying this because other people said this to me too, that their lifestyle is kind of similar now to what it was before. Somebody, I really appreciate the openness. Somebody saying they're feeling kind of hopeless right now. And you know what, I get that. I get some of those feelings. Better than others. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through. Okay. So thanks for that feedback, everybody. A wide range of feelings. I will tell you some of mine too. So I have been feeling kind of all of those things too. At times I'm like, oh, it's not so bad. I'm kind of enjoying the slower pace of things. I'm enjoying that I can get up when I want to. I'm enjoying, some of those shifts that have been happening. Sorry, give me 2 seconds here. My question and answer box I made disappear, and now I'm trying to, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so I understand how people are feeling about some of that. Okay, sorry, there we go. Okay. So we will be talking about how all emotions are valid, all experiences are valid, and that we need to allow space for those. But also know when we're getting overwhelmed, distraction is not always a bad thing. So it's walking that balance between allowing yourself to feel some of those feelings, to feel restless, to feel overwhelmed, and know that that's normal right now. But what I would say for the autistic folks specifically that I work with is it's also okay to distract yourself sometimes, to distract yourself with things that you enjoy doing, with video games, with stimming. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, really appreciate the people who are on here, the feedback that you've given. There is also a handout box that I am going to bring up here, and hopefully you can see this. So here in the handout box, there are the slides in French as well about how to contact me. So it's my I work with a number of other professionals, so it's our website. The presentation slides that are already here, that I'll be using are in the presentation, are in the handouts as well. I'm going to be referring later on to this great visual I found, and I've been communicating with a woman from this Facebook page that I found. I really appreciate, obviously, the knowledge of autistic folks themselves. If I'm any good at my job, it's because I have learned so much from the people I work with, and I know autistic people. Obviously know what they need best over neurotypical folks. So I, as much as possible, possible. And when I present, actually, I like to present with people on the spectrum. Obviously, that's not possible today. Because there's nobody on there's nobody who with autism who lives in my house, and I'm obviously respecting the social distancing. Anyway, I digress there. So the autistic self-care checklist, check-in, I will be referring to later on, and then a visual about mindfulness that I'll also be referring to later on. So you can download them. So somebody also said there, which I really appreciate that, I sometimes distract myself too much to the detriment of my productivity. Yes, I'm going to talk about the balance of that as well, around how to find that balance, because there needs to be a push and pull of both. And we're going to talk about the notion of productivity. So thanks for who said that. Okay, I can sometimes talk too much, so let's get moving on so that we can get to make sure that I'm covering everything. Okay, so next slide is structure and routine. So I know these tips sound basic, but they're harder to do than you would think, and I'm sure people are recognizing that themselves. So as I have learned over the years from the many autistic folks that I work with, sleep is more difficult for people on the spectrum than neurotypical people. And what seems to my experience, that seems to occur, and I think there's research that supports this, is the rhythms of sleep of people on the spectrum tend to be different than neurotypical folks. Meaning, what I seem to hear is that if somebody was able to pick the times that they went to sleep and the times that they woke up, it tends to be around 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. to like 11 or 12. So that seems to be sort of what people's natural sleep habits, if they could have a natural sleep habit, would be. I'm wondering if people are comfortable with it, if you can just type there whether or not in the question and answer box, whether or not that's your experience as well in terms of sleep being pushed back a little bit. But yes, some tips is to try to get up around the same time every day. I'm not sure what people's experiences right now is where people are living. I'm not sure people are living independently, in supported living, with family, so I think depending on your living situation, where you're living, so somebody says, I try to get to bed at 10 p.m., which is fantastic. And I think depending on where you're living and expectations of that home and people in that home, you have to be also respectful of what other people need in their own sleep schedule in your house. So somebody else said, I go to sleep around 2 to 3 and I get up at 7. I don't sleep at all for 24 hours sometimes. Somebody says I go to sleep around 12 to 1 and I get up around 11 to 12:30. So I really appreciate some of the feedback there around sleep. What I would suggest is, first of all, know what your benchmark for how much sleep you should be getting is. So people that I work with sometimes need more sleep than neurotypical people. So wake at 8 a.m. Also, people seem to have a wide variety. But the people I work with tend to, not all the time, but for autistic folks, obviously the world can be a little bit overwhelming in terms of sensory information, dealing with emotions, dealing with expectations, and that can be really exhausting. And so sometimes people I work with need to sleep longer than neurotypical folks. And that's totally okay, obviously. So neurotypical adults, I believe it's a sort of good sleep. I think it's anywhere between 7 and 9 hours, give or take. But people on the spectrum, the sleep may require more sleep. The only reason I'm saying this is I think it's important that you're not oversleeping as well. Oversleeping can sometimes be a sign of a mood issue happening. And so if you find yourself sleeping more now than you did in the past, and if you have access to a doctor
Chapter via telephone. That may be something to check out. But yeah, so to go back, set an alarm for the same time every day. It is okay if it's a bit later than before. Some people want to still get up at the same time, and that's helpful for who they live with and their families and themselves. And some people that I've talked to have pushed it back slightly. But I think it's, it's important to get up around the same time to keep that structure and routine. I can speak for myself and my family. Before we were sort of isolated in our house, we were tending to get up out of bed around 7. We've pushed it back an hour to 8. And sometimes my kids who are one's a teenager, so maybe a little bit later, but around the same time. Try to eat at the same time every day. So again, obviously breakfast is important. I know not everybody eats breakfast, but to try to get up at the same time every day. Try to eat at the same time every day. You're sitting your meals, so that's some structure. Another thing, which I know is tough and but important and for lots of different ways, if you can integrate a little bit of exercise into your day. We know that research really does support exercise supporting wellness. I can speak from experience right now. I was trying to increase my own physical health in the last 6 months, and I have found it hard to motivate myself to keep running. So I know it's tough, but I know when I've been able to do that, I've enjoyed it a little bit more. Because I have kids, my 9-year-old really likes to do Just Dance. And so it can be fun. I don't know if anybody has video games that require movement or things like that. But if you have a small exercise routine that you do, or yoga, consider even a short bit of that every day. Try to integrate relaxation. So things that bring you calm and relaxation. Again, there's different things for different people. I personally do meditate. And again, I'll be honest, I was having a hard time maintaining that because my structure and routine had sort of waned a little bit. And I've reintegrated that in just for a few minutes each day, and that's been really helpful. And then consider connecting with others via text, phone, or video. That can be family, that can be friends. If I don't know if any of you are in post-secondary education. I think it's mostly adults on here, but connecting with teachers that way as well. But I think another important thing is to treat these as intentions and not as hard and fast rules. So again, it's that balance of having compassion for yourself, having some expectations, but having compassion for yourself when you're not able to always do them. And that is key. That sort of to have intentions, but to have compassion for yourself when you're not able to do it. Quick question again, if people want to, you don't have to, but if people want to, if anybody is doing any exercise and what you're finding helpful around exercise. So if you wanted to respond to that would be great. Okay. You feel free to respond. I'm going to move on, but you can also type in. So I kind of like this slide because it's kind of like some basics, and it's kind of like treat yourself like you would a plant. So drink water. Seems simple. I talked about it before. I have my fancy water bottle here. So somebody's saying taking it slow, wait for walks instead of runs. And I've been doing that too. And I'm living in an area, Peterborough, that's lucky that it's not as populated as Toronto. I know people who are living in busier areas that people are feeling not comfortable going out for walks, and that's totally fine. I know that people have to sort of manage those pieces. So yeah, drink water. I'm doing a lot of exercise. Somebody said, yeah. So. Drink water, get sunlight when you can. So I recognize too, it's been dreary lately here. It hailed. We had a hailstorm here yesterday. And right now there's a little bit of sun out. I'm finding though, if possible, even if you are, so somebody said they found an app an app, a Peloton app has a 90-day free trial. So somebody fantastic. Somebody said they're using a running program to ease into running for the first time, and so I'm finding that motivating for me to hear other people say that, because I'm wanting to get back into it. So I appreciate that that feedback. So even if you're not comfortable going for walks, if you are lucky enough or are fortunate enough, like I am, to have some space in my front yard, and I have a porch that I'm able to sit out on, and I'm trying to do that more. Somebody said they're really missing going out with support workers, and they live in the country. Yeah, I appreciate that feedback, and going for walks with dogs. Yeah. So I know people are in different situations, and I know for people who have support workers and other supporters, it's tough. It's tough right now, and those feelings are valid. And we need to find ways to connect. And I know when you live in the country, I'm assuming the internet for some people is not as good, and so it's harder to do video chats and stuff like that. But texting and connecting, even if you can't see anybody, and going out is connecting is important. Opening some windows. Remember to eat regularly, as I said. Remember to take prescribed medication. Okay, I'm not a doctor, I'm a social worker, and so I'm not overly comfortable talking about medication. Somebody says they don't like going outside, and I get that. So I actually have a 13-year-old daughter who also she lives with some overwhelmness as well, and she doesn't like going outside either. Maybe it's not necessary, but for some people it can be helpful. Okay, so back to medication. Again, I'm not a doctor, but what I do like to talk about is just when routines get messed up, sometimes medication is aligned with routines. So I think so somebody mentioned about medication. So yeah, some people have medication for mental health needs. Some people have medication for different things. So remember to take your medication, especially align it with something in your routine. If your routine is shifted, try to realign it with something else. The other big thing, which I'm always checking with people about, is keep track of it. So if it's running out, you can make sure that it's not as easy, I don't think, right now. It takes a little bit more work to be in touch with pharmacists and stuff like that. We have to do it differently. So making sure that you are aware of when it's running out, so you or whoever's supporting you, family members, can help you make sure that you're getting more, and that you have enough. Time with pets. I don't know if anybody has pets. Somebody talked about walking a dog. I have 2 cats, and my kids have a bunch of fish. They laughed at me the other day because I started talking to the fish. But pets, especially, this may be a generalization, but the people that I work with on the spectrum tend to have a really important relationship with their animals. So, and that with their pets generally, more so than neurotypical people, I'm finding. So making sure you're spending time with pets. Talk to your fish if you need to, like I do. Having a clear start and end to your day. So having a clear morning routine, which we're going to talk about, and a clear bedtime routine. It provides the structure to the day. It provides a clear start and end. And again, well, for me and lots of people, is the days seem to be sort of blending into one another. I joke with some of my clients, and not in a judgmental way. It's kind of a funny way. It was sort of a running joke now. Is, okay, what day of the week is it? And so sometimes it's confusing to know what day of the week it is, and that can, without knowing, add a feeling of stress and anxiety. So kind of knowing that time is passing can be helpful to feel grounded. Okay, morning routine. Again, these are just ideas. These are things I have found to be helpful for myself, things that when I'm sort of doing some research online right now, having clear, that having that routine can be helpful. Again, I'm going to keep repeating this other phrase though, is, sometimes you're going to slip up. Sometimes that routine is going to be really tough to keep up. And, we're going to talk a little bit about these shoulds, and how I should be doing this, I should be doing that, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that, how they can sorry, when I pause, it's because I've seen a question pop up or a comment. So somebody said, knowing time is passing is a stress for me. Yeah, and so again, this is why these are not hard and fast rules. I really appreciate that feedback. I hear that from people as well, that time can be stressful. And so what I'm saying here may be helpful for some people and unhelpful for others. So you know yourself best. Take little bits that are helpful from this, and the pieces that may be unhelpful, just push them aside, ignore them. It's not, there's no right thing for everybody. So I'm looking at my time here. So I know I've been chatting for 30 minutes. I may go a little bit longer. Apparently I have the go ahead to do that if needed. I'm going to try to keep it to an hour, but just so you know, if people are watching time, as we talked about time, it is possible to go for a few minutes past the hour mark. And because this started late, because of the technical difficulties, the hour mark is not 12 p.m. The hour mark is I'm talking about time, the hour mark would be around 12:15-ish. It's also available on demand too, but I'll remind you all that later. Back to the morning routine. Okay, a clear start to the day provides structure. So again, trying to get up around the same time every day if possible. If lying in your bed for a little while is a start to your routine, a start to your day, that's fine. I have been setting my alarm, and I'm allowing myself to sort of lie in bed and ease into the day in a way that I didn't before for about 15 minutes. So it's whatever you find helpful. Some people like to get up right away. Some people have a hard time getting out of bed. And I'm finding that some people are having that even more so now. You all know a little bit probably what you need. Some people may need that time, may need that extra rest, and some people may feel like too much lying in bed, although feels good, could be impeding sort of their wellness. So if you are the type of person that needs to get out of bed right away, do that. So somebody just said that time passing is stressful for them. And I've heard other people say that. So this is probably something that's not helpful for you, but some people it is. I've asked my clients when I'm talking about this, about their daily routine. Some people do find this very helpful, and some people actually find it, they don't really care or find it overwhelming, but it can be helpful to know what day of the week it is. So you may want to check, and for medication purposes and things like that, you may want to check a calendar on your phone or your computer or what have you to know what day of the week it is. So you're sort of aware of days. Morning routine, for those who do it, I think most people should, but have breakfast. I've had to consciously make sure I'm doing that, and my kids are doing that as well. So you're sort of starting the day with food. Some of the people I work with where time is elusive, forget to eat. They may not have the hunger signals all the time, and when they actually are hungry, they're over hungry. So sometimes you need to eat at just prescribed times, even if you're not hungry, because that's helpful. Now, I think it's important. Other people may not. I think it's important. I've talked to clients, get changed into new clothes. Maybe people, if you're comfortable, can comment. Are people changing their clothes every day? I'm not asking this in any sort of judgmental way or anything about appearance or anything like that. The reason I'm saying it is it just, it's so helpful to have. Yeah, so somebody's saying that they're changing clothes every day. So some people that I'm working with aren't, and that sort of can bleed into sort of lower moods. So somebody's saying every 2 days, maybe. So that's why I asked the questions. I think some people, so it's just something to consider. It may or may not be helpful. Some of these are just things to try. So consider changing regularly and see if that sort of helps structure to your day. And every day, a little later in the day than usual. Okay, so thanks everybody for commenting. House pajamas, changing clothes every few days. Sorry, I'm scrolling. Changing clothes every few days due to not having to wash them for no, and I get that, but washing, especially if you're trying to manage energy, and if you have to go to some people have to go to a laundromat. So, again, this is not everybody, but what I'm finding, so somebody did say, yes, during the week I get up at the same time and do all my regular morning routines, which helps separate the days from one to another. Yeah, so that's what I'm finding too, that is helping people separate their days from one to the other. So just something to think about. I will say, again, no hard and fast rules. I'm working from home. I'm working in my bedroom, which is strange for me to sort of work. Obviously, I'm seeing clients virtually. This may be more of a neurotypical thing. I don't know. I'm finding that, if I want to be in a certain mood, I'm a makeup wearer. I wear makeup. Not everybody does. Not everybody does. For me, that's helpful. Brush my hair, makeup. So today I put on decent looking clothes, hopefully, and put makeup on, and that sort of was signifying to me that this was a work day. This is a day that I wanted to get some stuff done, needed to get some stuff done. So sometimes that can be helpful. Brushing your teeth and showering, if you do, I don't know when people shower, but having a regular shower routine, doesn't have to be every day, but having a regular shower routine and remembering to do those things is very important. Brushing teeth. So I'm saying this because at the best of times, some of the people I work with, have a hard time remembering brushing their teeth and just don't like it. So these are things that are just going to be really important to try to keep up. From my experience, people on the spectrum, when routines fade back, it can be hard to get them started again. And this isolation is not going to go on forever. And we're going to have to get back into routine. So it's okay to let them up a little bit, but yourselves. If you are a person with a hard time getting back to routine, it's going to be even more important to keep the routines going. And this has been sort of very life-changing for me. Consider writing out some intentions for the day, or typing out, or thinking about them. I've started writing most mornings. I forget sometimes, and that's okay. Things that I want to maybe do during the day. So some of it's work-related, some of it's hanging out with my kids, some of it's reading. The book that I'm reading, or the Netflix series I'm watching. And again, it's not hard and fast rules, because we don't want to judge ourselves for not being able to do them. But it does provide some consistency, I guess, and that can be really helpful to have some loose. I don't say goals on purpose, because I think when people set goals and if they don't meet them, it can add a level of judgment. So it's just things that you kind of intend to try to do. Okay, as usual, I talk too much. Intentions for the day. Again, consider, this is what in more detail about that. Consider putting, if you're going to keep a sort of intentions list in the morning, maybe put one thing on it, so it's something fun to do. One thing that's something relaxing to do, and they could be the same thing. Something creative if you're a creative person, if that gives you sort of joy. Something productive. I put productive in quotes. So some people do really feel right now that they need to accomplish small tasks, accomplish things, feel productive. Some people right now, the idea of being productive is too much with everything else going on. So yourselves, the biggest piece is to have compassion for yourself. If you know that being quote unquote productive is important for you, then maybe plan out a small project or task or something new you want to learn, and put that, in your intentions for the day. If you know you're the type of person that's too much right now, then don't put it on the list. That is totally fine. We talked about exercise. Stimming. I'm going to talk. So somebody asked what stimming. So I said if needed. So people. It's on the list too, the autistic self-care check-in list that I'm going to show you in a bit. So somebody asked, what is stimming? So it is sort of, so people on the spectrum, as opposed to neurotypical people, though I think some neurotypical people do this, need to have movements in their day. So some people, like to look at bright lights and they find that engaging. Some people on the spectrum rock, one when they're feeling overwhelmed or one when they're excited. I know some people who sort of flap their hands and their fingers when they are feeling or a little jumping, so when they're feeling either happy or overwhelmed. And so it's often things that your body just needs to do. And sometimes over the years, people on the spectrum have been taught that that's not okay. But in my experience and talking to people on the spectrum, ensuring that you have time to do those sorts of things. I don't know if anybody wants to share things that they do that are stimming in nature, and what's helpful, that would be great. And I can give some examples of what people said. It could be saying the same words or sounds over and over again. So it's something that your body does to regulate. And so sometimes we really need to make sure that that is actually being planned into your day. Okay. If anybody again wants to talk about things that they do somebody there said they rock. So it's ways that your body sort of is meeting the need for regulation, self-regulation. And sometimes I have heard people tell me is when they are, feeling overwhelmed or stressed, they actually have to intentionally plan times to do those things, so that they're sort of regulating their body. So I'm reading what somebody's saying. So sometimes when I get really focused on something, I'll start saying my thoughts out loud. Yeah, so that definitely could be like some of that self-talk. So somebody said, I don't plan for stimming. I just do it all day when watching TV or doing other things on my computer. The person just said that. If you wouldn't mind saying what that stimming is, so I can give an example of the person who was asking. But yeah, talking out loud can be something that people do. And I think, often when people are out in public, some people choose not to stim, some people choose to, but I think now is the time, if you are finding that talking out loud is helpful, if you are in a space where people are okay with that, do that. I know people who find it helpful to repeat, YouTube videos or video game stuff. So somebody said, thanks for your feedback, somebody said what they do is they twist up paper into bits, and that's helpful. So it's just a way of their body finding regulation, self-regulation in your body. And now is the time when you're feeling overwhelmed to make sure that that don't stop yourself from doing that, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. And yes, I am talking too much, so we'll probably go over. Apologies. Again, bedtime routine, trying to go to sleep around, so I may go through these slides a little bit quicker, but I'll still spend time on them. So again, we talked about this. So somebody said they like music for regulation. I agree 100%. I am a huge music fan myself and find that really helpful. So yeah, I just have to be careful how loud I play it, because my 13-year-old and I don't like the same music. So try to go to sleep around the same time every night. Again, the intentions I talked about at the beginning, I think it is important at the end of the day to either, my goal was to write it out at the end of the day. Let's be honest, sometimes I forget. But I do try to think about or write down things that I accomplished or enjoyed during the day. It adds again a beginning and an end to the day, and then see that there were things that I did enjoy during the day. There may be tough times, but there often is times of things that I enjoy. Maybe think about what you like to do tomorrow. If you are an evening showerer.
So somebody said they wear noise canceling headphones to block out noise. Yeah, and I know other people who do that often too, because they can find the sensory pieces and sounds to be overwhelming. Again, I think it's important to change clothes from what you've worn during the day to what you're wearing when you sleep. Not everybody needs that, but it's something to consider. So somebody said they shower every night before bed. And so I think having that routine, if you shower or have a bath or wash your face, there's lots of reasons. It's called sleep hygiene. And there's lots of research to support having the same sort of a simple routine. It could be a small glass of water, a tea, herbal tea, of course, before you go to bed. That routine can support falling asleep. Limit, I know me saying I'm bad on it too, but limit social media, video games, videos before you sleep. Research is saying like at least an hour. So think about that. Think about limiting some of that. And if you need something to consider, actually like a book, or if you read on a device, so think about the light that you're using to wind yourself down. Consider white noise or relaxing music. That can be helpful, a guided meditation. So body scan, I'm not going to go into great details about it, but a body scan, actually I'll talk to the staff at Autism Ontario. I'll add something new to a list of resources I can provide to them. What a body scan is. So body scan, so some of the people I work with find it helpful to support falling asleep, is intentionally sort of scanning your body, either from feet to head or head to feet, and consciously trying to relax yourself. And that can be really helpful. So again, I'm just time check is I've got about 15 more minutes to go, but I may go a little bit over. Somebody said they set up a blue light filter on their phone that automatically turns on at 7:30 and turns off at 8 a.m. So that's helpful to have those sorts of things, so you're not having that light. I really appreciate people's ideas here. Thank you. It makes presenting much more interactive and engaging. So some basics about things. So caffeine, I'm doing this workshop's geared towards autistic adults. So I know some people do drink alcohol and some people don't that I talk to. And especially if you have medication that you shouldn't be drinking alcohol with, obviously don't do it at all. And if you're not a drinker, obviously don't start now. Somebody said they wear blue light glasses. Oh, I don't even know what those are. So try to limit caffeine, alcohol, junk food. I mean, yeah, I'm eating a little bit more junk food than regularly. Again, I'm trying not to judge myself around this, but just try to be careful. Somebody said they gave me their age in their 20s and they've never drank alcohol before, and I've had lots of clients who are adults and have chosen, they just don't see the interest or need for it. Yeah, so obviously if you don't drink alcohol, don't start now. Naps. So I think it's important for sleep it's okay to nap now and again, but to try to limit it. If you nap too much, it's really going to impact your sleep schedule. That being said too, if you find yourself sleeping too much, maybe something to talk to a doctor about, because that can be a sign of a potential mood issue. So finding that balance is important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about mindfulness, but not too much. I think so mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way. So that's on purpose. So paying attention to something on purpose. Should it be like partaking in a video game? In the present moment, trying not to worry about the past or the future, which I know is hard right now, especially somebody says they nap all day and at night. So, naps are fine. I do too. Just, I guess my biggest thing is if it has changed significantly, your napping and sleeping, if it has changed significantly, meaning your baseline has changed from before the isolation of things have happened, that's just something to be aware of. Any major changes to that is something just to be aware of. So mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way on purpose. So that could be
to a video game, as I said, or to, sound strange, but I always very mindfully wash the dishes. I enjoy that. And non-judgmentally. So that's a huge piece of it for me, not to judge yourself. Okay. So you don't have to write these down, but think about them. So what happens sometimes when we are not aware of it, and sometimes we are, aware of it, is that we should, we have lots of thoughts is mindfulness about my own behavior? So mindfulness is about what you're experiencing. So mindfulness is being present in the morning. Sorry, I'm being distracted a little bit by questions here. So mindfulness is about being present around. It can be about your own behavior. So being aware of what's going on. If you are stimming, do that mindfully. Do it in a way that sort of you're aware of it. For me, mindfulness is about in the moment being present with my kids and not thinking about what should be doing later today, or like this morning when I was sitting with my daughter before this workshop, it was about, okay, I'm sitting with my daughter right now. The workshop hasn't started yet. I need to be sort of present with her in the moment. So it's about being in the moment and not sort of thinking about the past or the future, or at least being aware of when you're doing that and trying to bring yourself back to whatever moment thing you're doing. If you're playing with an animal, with your cat, whatever, doing that in the moment. What happens sometimes, though, is we do have shoulds that pop into our head. So just maybe think about all the shoulds that have happened recently. So, I think somebody said earlier, I should be more productive. For me, it's like I shouldn't feel so tired all the time. I'm not doing very much. I shared an article on my Facebook page yesterday about the fact that this is, people are exhausted right now because of the change in the world, the information coming at us. And so we need to be aware of how we're inadvertently putting pressure on ourselves. So I should be eating better. I shouldn't have lost my temper the other day. I should be getting outside more. So I don't know if anybody wants to talk about any shoulds that have been happening. If anybody has any shoulds, like I should be taking better care of myself. I shouldn't be feeling so overwhelmed. So feel free to mention some of those things that maybe you've had pop up. So my big ones are, as I said, I should be getting more done during the day. I should be cleaning my house. I should, the puzzle I started a month ago, Tom Thompson 1,000-piece puzzle that I started a month ago, should be done. So just think of those shoulds. I should be working out. I should be more proactive about my responsibilities. Yeah. So be aware of those things. So we call that in mindfulness speak, the pesky should. We call it the second arrow. And I just want people to be aware of, and that's a pressure that we are placing on ourselves to somehow should draw. Somebody said I should draw more. I should be more proactive. I saw that one already. But I should draw more. I should be doing some of these things. I like to write. I should be writing more. I should fix my sleep schedule. So these are all things that obviously would be good if we're able to do it. They would be good. Would be good if I'd be able to write more. It would be good, probably, the person who said it, if they could draw more. And that's fine to have those goals, but the second arrow is actually how we judge ourselves. So this could be the judgment we place upon ourselves for feeling a certain way. So somebody said, unfortunately, that they've had a situation where they're feeling more alone than usual, and getting trapped a little bit in some of those feelings of sadness. And so I think it's important to acknowledge those feelings of being valid. So it's valid to feel that way.
And then, and that's what next slide we're going to look at is how you can also sort of not move on from those feelings, but so they're not sort of controlling you. So the second arrow is the judgment that we place upon ourselves, for not being perfect, for not responding in the way that we think we should. Again, it's what time is it here? 12:10. So we're probably going to go till 12:20, 12:25. So I apologize to people that I talk too much. But I also really appreciate the fact that we are, people are interactive. So somebody said, thanks for the comment. Should I feel guilty about being less productive in every sense each day? So my quick answer to that is no. You know what? Actually, it's a good time that you asked that question. I've moved on to the expectation slide. Seems like a silly thing for me to state because we all know it, but I find it helpful to restate it. We are living through a global pandemic. So I don't say that to overwhelm people. People know that. I don't want to overwhelm you by saying that. The reason I am restating that is this is new to everybody. We have no roadmap for how to navigate this, for how to take in information. I was watching the news the other night because I wanted to be informed, and I was getting angry. Somebody said they're feeling stressed by seeming no seeming end to this pandemic or public areas being closed. Again, that feeling is valid. So it's that balance of feeling that feeling and recognizing so many people are feeling that way right now. So allowing that feeling to be there, but trying to find ways not to be overwhelmed by it, which I know is hard to do. So some of that is having some structure to your day. The things you have control over to try as much as possible to have that structure and that control. Again, somebody said I'm coping with it pretty well. I'm sort of an indoor person. I agree with you. I am too. And so but it still can be overwhelming. There are a lot of unknowns and uncertainties right now, and that's hard for everybody. I think I could be wrong with this. So people on the spectrum know what it's like to constantly feel like things are, the people aren't giving them enough information about changes in routines and expectations. So that feeling of anxiety is unfortunately a pretty common one. I do think this is a little bit more though. But I think it is, having some predictability around it, I think is your own predictability, I think, is so important. That's why I really am stressing the routines and your structure to your day, because we have some control over that. We have some control over what we can do. So it's okay to feel worried, and it's normal to feel worried. So just remember that's okay. And it's lots of people are feeling that way or feeling stressed. So the dialectical thinking is using and instead of but. So what that really means is I can be feeling at times okay and overwhelmed. It's a strange thing that you can have both feelings at the same time, or the thinking of, I am going to try to be as productive as possible and be okay when I'm not able to be. That sort of, I'm going to try, but I'm going to be okay and kind to myself when I'm not meeting those expectations. So somebody said that it's affecting their schoolwork. Well, classes are online. It's harder to get help from professors and peers. And I get that. It's so true that people are having to adjust to that. And I think what's really important to that is, again, I'm going to the productivity versus wellness. We need to shift our own expectations of ourselves and realize, I've had to say to I have a daughter in grade 8 who does quite well at school, and that's been important to her. But, that the expectations of ourselves need to switch a little bit. We need to be a little bit kinder to ourselves. Okay. So I'm going to be going for 15 more minutes, and then so we'll be going till 12:30. So back to this. So between stimulus
in response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies that growth and our freedom. So that's a very sort of philosophical statement there. What that really means is the goal in terms of the self-judgment that we have of ourselves, we're maybe not able to be as productive as we would like or do things the way that we like, is to try to be aware of your immediate responses that you're having to those sorts of things, and to not judge yourself too much, and to take a few deep breaths. For some people, it's visualizing a stop sign, something to do to give yourself some space to respond to yourself in a kind way, to respond to other people in a kind way, all those sorts of things. So I want people, maybe not now. So somebody, I really appreciate how candid people are being here. Somebody said I'm on the spectrum, but I put the expectations of myself as a normal or neurotypical person. Yeah, I think that's really important to be aware of, that you may be more tired right now than neurotypical people are, without even, and that's okay. You know, that's okay to feel that way. So write down some small ways that you can be gentle with yourself or shift some of that expectation. So take some time to think about some ways that you could be a little bit more gentle with yourself. So somebody there said they do the same. They sort of place their own expectations of neurotypical people. You know what? I think striving for being somebody or not, it's just so much pressure. You know, I think that's one way you could shift expectations, is know that it's okay if you need to do things differently. It's okay if these feelings are more overwhelming, and be gentle with yourself. So maybe take some time and just, even after this is over, and think some ways that you can shift some of those expectations. I'm considering putting away my 1,000-piece puzzle downstairs. Just stares at me every day and says, "You haven't done me yet." So think of some of those ways a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to go into a great bit of detail about this. There is a visual in the handout section. So for some people, this is a helpful just framework. It's just to recognize. So it's from a Buddhist teacher, actually, named Tara Brach, but it's a way of recognizing. Okay, so somebody, which again, this could be a whole other workshop, because I hear this stuff a lot, but somebody said their needs aren't being taken seriously because they don't have an obvious disability, like somebody in a wheelchair or something that's visible and can pass mostly as neurotypical. And I hear that a lot, and that's why you really need to be, hopefully talk to your friends or family about what you need, and that you are processing things differently, and that you need maybe more space and you need more time, and that's okay. I'm digressing here, but the other piece point I want to make is, even though we are isolated, and if you are isolated with family right now, we're not around people socially, but you may be around family or support workers or whoever. It's okay to ask for a break, to go for your room or go somewhere to not have to be around people, and that's acceptable and is needed. Okay, so back to the rain. So this is about recognizing your own sort of experiences and not judging them. So R is recognize. So somebody talked about being stressed or overwhelmed. So just label it and allow it to be there. Or I'm feeling guilty. Allow that feeling to be there, and recognize that pushing away often doesn't help. The I is investigate with kindness, which really means, okay, why am I, in a non-judgmental way, why am I feeling this way? Why am I placing this expectation on myself when we're living through this very different time? Somebody said there that a relative father does not understand the condition, the autism, and that is an added challenge to all this, for sure. The N is non-attachment, so the letting go of things. So if you think about guilt, so one that I'll use, I experience it fairly regularly. So I recognize that that's there, that I'm feeling guilty for not doing enough, accepting that that's how I'm feeling, and investigating, like, okay, why am I feeling that way? And the N is like, okay, I can let that go. I may come back again later, but I don't have to hold on to that feeling. I can let it go and move on and try to do something else. So this is the last slide.
but I'm also going to just do a brief guided meditation with people, and then hopefully I'll have 1 or 2 minutes for questions. In times of challenges, there are often things that make us grateful and bring us moments of joy. A small one that I've done is I didn't make an extra trip, because it's important not to make extra trips. But when my husband was going out for groceries last week, I asked him to buy me some plants. And so that I'm grateful for having some plants to look after. So think of some things that bring you joy. Start the day writing a few intentions or goals, as I talked about. And at the end of the day, as I talked about, consider writing down 2 or 3 moments of things that you were grateful for, or that brought you some moment of joy or contentness. Okay, so I'm going to do a brief guided meditation. I'm going to bring my phone up just because I have music on it. Okay. So what this is just a few minutes of, it's not a meditation, it's a guided visualization. So it's going to say to shut your eyes. That's not comfortable for all people. Just so you know, if you're doing any guided meditations or things, don't feel like you have to close your eyes. Sometimes people feel overwhelmed with that, and some people like it. If this doesn't work for you, you don't have to pay attention. So if this doesn't work for you, you don't have to do it. But if it does, consider giving it a go. So I'm going to put some music on in the background, and I'm just going to read a few things out. Okay? Hopefully it's not too loud, this music. Okay. So make yourself comfortable wherever you are right now. Could be sitting on the floor if you are, or sitting on a chair. Wherever you're comfortable, sort of move your body a little bit and try to consciously relax your neck and your shoulders. If you're comfortable, allow your eyes to close and your body to melt in, to feel like sort of melting into the chair. So bring attention to your body and the flowing of your breath. So take a breath in and a breath out. When you feel ready, picture in your head the image of a lake. Perhaps a lake that you know well, or you go to often, or one that you've just seen in a photograph, or an imaginary lake for that matter. Just seeing if you can bring that image into your vivid focus in your head. So first of all, I want you to notice how it's an extended body of water held into a depression in the Earth's surface, and perhaps fed by a spring or a stream. If you watch and observe the lake carefully, you'll notice that it's always changing, and yet it's also always itself. It changes as the sun moves across the sky. The light is reflected off the water in different ways. It changes depending on the weather. Sometimes on very calm days, the surface might look like glass and reflect virtually everything with great precision that comes by. Clouds, birds, the trees that might surround the lake, the sun as it makes its journey across the sky, and for that matter, the moon and the stars at night. So there are many times where the lake is extremely reflective and calm and contains in a certain way everything that comes by or over it. In different periods of time, the surface might be choppy and sometimes quite pronounced in the waves, in which times the light might sparkle off the waves in different ways. Of course, the lake changes through the seasons. In the winter, depending on its location, it might actually be frozen over, at least on the surface. Through day and night, and through the seasons, and through the years, the lake is constantly changing, but always has its own essential nature. Let's see if we can't invite the lake to become coexistive with our living body, so that our body becomes the lake itself. We also feel held and embraced as we sit here, aware of the many ways in which our own mind is like the surface of the lake, sometimes highly reflective and calm, and sometimes choppy. Getting in touch with a sense of the entirety of the lake, the full body of water, not only the surface, but down below.
as we sit here just experiencing the fullness of our own being, so that even at times when our mind is choppy and upset or reactive or dealing with difficult things, we can drop down beneath the surface of our mind's waves and find a stillness and a calmness that's always here, that's always available to us with each moment, with each breath, and certainly when we come to sit down in this way. So that was just a bit of a guided meditation. Again, some people don't find it helpful and some people do. I can include links to different ones that people can check out if they find it would be helpful. I don't know if we have time. It's only, we only have like 5 minutes left. So I probably can't do any questions right now, though if somebody, so there's, okay, so I'm told I can do questions. If anybody has any questions or comments just for the next couple of minutes, feel free to post it here. Somebody did say, unfortunately, they won't be able to do co-op this summer. So fortunately, though, with all the free time, I finally have time to get through my video game collection. I've been busy to get through with my work and school. So that's good. It's finding some of the positives in the situation. So somebody thanked me. Well, thank you. So I appreciate that. So somebody gave me feedback. I found it unsettling when you said to drop below the lake surface for stillness. So it was, and I was conscious when I read this. I was wondering when I read this visualization that for some people it is kind of abstract and metaphorical. And so I appreciate that feedback, that some of it was unsettling. Was not my intention, so I apologize if it inadvertently. We did find it unsettling. I think what that metaphor is often used in terms of riding the waves or going beneath the surface of the waves. I'll tell you what it means. It means when you have lots of busyness going on in your mind and lots of feelings, that they are, for a lack of a better term, just sort of visiting, that they are, you can kind of observe them in a different way. You can observe the thoughts and the feelings. When it talks about dropping below the surface, it sort of means that underneath the thoughts and the worries, there is some calm, that the waves, they come, but they disappear. I'm not sure if that makes any sense, but it's just sort of this idea of people also talk about it riding the waves of these emotions. So you don't have to become the waves. Again, it's a metaphor. You don't have to become the waves in the water. You can ride on top of them, know the waves are there, but also know that they'll disappear. They're not going to stick around forever. And that can be a good way to think about some of those feelings. Any other questions or comments? I do just want to direct you to the side here, the handouts. So there we go, bring it up here. So the handouts I just brought up, if you do, I know you don't see it when I bring it up, but if you care to check now or later on the Autistic self-care infographic, I found this from a Facebook page, and I think they have Twitter, obviously, it looks like there, Autistics Allowed, ALOUD. And so they got the self-care check-in list that was people on the spectrum indicated, things that we've talked about already. So drinking water, limiting social media, having a stim session, taking medication, playing video games, connecting with friends safely, cuddling with a pet or watching animal videos, reading or listening to a book or an ebook, indulge, which we didn't talk about, indulge in your artistic joys, washing hands and face. So I think, if you do have specific interests that you like to spend time engaging and learning about, do it. Spend some time doing those things. Okay. So, and there's lots of different webinars on Autism Ontario's website, and it's the same link as the one that you use for login, and you can so there's sorry, I'm misinterpreting what somebody just said to me. So there's on demand for this webinars. If you wanted to watch it again, watch me again, I will not be doing that, but you're welcome to do that. And Autism Ontario has a number of other ones too that are being advertised on their Facebook page and Twitter, and they have a link of resources on their website as well around mental health and things like that. I do have a Facebook page. It's called Rediscovery Counseling. So if you're on Facebook, I'm sending information there. Rediscovery Counseling, and my name, Stephanie Moeser. I also have Twitter, which I believe is re_discovery. I'm starting to use it more. So those are things that people can connect with me on. And I'm doing another workshop next Friday at the same time, geared more towards teens and youth on the spectrum, but there'll be obviously similar sort of discussions that I'll be having. But you're welcome to join then again, if that would be helpful. So really, really appreciate the amount of interaction that happened today. Hope everybody's keeping as well as possible. My last comment is, just be kind to yourself. We're really good sometimes at being kind to other people and not as kind to ourselves. So take the time to really realize that that's important now. Okay, I think I am going to sign off now. Take care, everybody.